Hi, you guys. Quick chat, hopefully, kind of. I just wanted to talk about something real quick because I know the last week between the full moon in Cancer, plus Mercury retrograde, plus the new year, coming off the holidays and everything, there was a lot of heavy energy and a lot of ascension downloads and just a lot of stuff going on for people. So I wanted to touch on something that was coming through for me yesterday. But before I get into that, I want to start actually with the message that I channeled from Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and Mother Mary for the New Year's collective reading that I did a few days ago. So, because it plays right into what I want to talk about. So, if you didn't watch the whole reading, the first part that I did, I was set up the camera to record me using the pendulum to get a direct message from them. It's funny because all I wanted was a theme for the year, and I was expecting to get like a word or two or three, and instead I got a whole message. But that doesn't surprise me either. You may or may not want to watch the whole video, if you want to watch the pendulum doing its thing. But I wanted to read it as well, just partially so that more of you hear it, but also, like I said, this is gonna play into what I wanted to talk about. So the message that they told me was for 2023, for Twin Flames, of course, is, and this is quoted because it's spelled out exactly from Spirit, okay? Expect many faithful followers of the light to dance with their dreams. Kill expectations of what you think should happen and when. You can be unexpectedly surprised by how quickly everything falls into place. Don't give up. Believe in your divine twin flame and trust that they will find their way home to you. Open your heart to receive all the blessings that are coming to you. And then I did go at the end say, okay, now can you give me a one-word theme for the year? And it was expansion. And expansion in all ways, okay? Like life purpose, career, abundance, love, everything, okay? And I just have to say that very first sentence, expect many faithful followers of the light to dance with their dreams. Like, that is actually a really beautiful message. Not something I would have ever said on my own. Like, that is something in and of itself is almost like a form of proof that I didn't say that. So anyway, it is a very powerful message, and there are some important points in it, which is what I wanted to get into here with just like feelings that can come through because of the heaviness of the energy. Like, I wasn't really feeling the need to purge because of the full moon. There was just like some slight stuff that was coming up here and there, and it helped. I'm not sure exactly where it cut me off. I didn't get to finish my sentence, but I was saying that I didn't have any major purges last week, but there was some slight emotions coming through that I'm sure had to do with the full moon. It might have also had to do with my twin. I could have been picking up his emotions and I wasn't completely sure of it. But I also think it was to help me talk about this. I felt the nudging from Spirit to talk about this with you guys. Like, I know that when I talk about twin flames now and I give like guidance and advice, it can be hard for some people because it's very 5D based. It's very higher perspective based, understanding the bigger picture. And that's hard for people who are really entrenched in the 3D aspect of everything, because you're living in the real world. Well, you know what? I don't even want to say that, because now that I understand how Spirit works, but you're living in the 3D reality that is your real world. It's what you are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. You have these emotions, you're dealing with the separation, and it's very, very, very difficult to be able to step back all the time and always have this higher understanding of what's going on spiritually, of things that you can't see that aren't tangible. And it's really hard for some people. They really struggle, especially when you're really struggling with certain wounds. It's very hard to be able to step back and understand things from other perspectives, from your twin's perspective, from Spirit's perspective, from your own soul's perspective sometimes. And, when I started doing this, obviously it was guided by Spirit, but at the time, part of my thought process was that I didn't like the guidance that I was seeing from twin flame teachers. I can't even call them readers, because the ones that I was thinking of, they didn't even do readings. They were more like coaches. you could pay to work with them, but they didn't do readings for you. They would just like kind of like coach you through the process. And a lot of the stuff that they were talking about and saying, I was like, number one, like a lot of this is too 5D, honestly. I don't even know how else to say it. Too 5D or too advanced for people to understand, basically. Like they're literally even using words that a lot of people would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then on top of that, it did not have much basis in 3D reality. And like I said, you functioning and living in this world, what you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Like, for example, when someone keeps telling you over and over and over again, separation is just an illusion, you can very easily be like, they live somewhere else with a karmic partner. Separation is not an illusion. It's an illusion in a different aspect. It's an illusion from the 5D sense, but separation is not an illusion in the 3D sense. Like, we're not together. And you can tell me, and I still say this now. Even though I function from the 5D most of the time. I was honestly say 99% of the time. And I'm able to hold that higher understanding of everything and understanding my twin's perspective. But I still maintain when someone says to me, well, you're not separated in the 5D, you're always together. I was like, yeah, our souls are always together, but I can't touch that. And I can't feel that every day. I want to be able to wake up in his arms and, be able to touch him and talk to him every day, and even though we're in a good place in terms of we're in the reunion phase. So like we know where each other stands. Nobody's running, nothing like that. It's just a matter of like the final steps of readiness for full union. But still, he's still not right here next to me every day, and yeah, of course I understand that in the 5D there's no separation, and I can connect in the 5D and have a conversation with his higher self whenever I want. and I can feel his energy like pretty much all the time. Although I do sometimes think Spirit puts me in a void of not feeling so much so that I will, well, we're going to get into that, but that's one of the things, Spirit's things. Spirit wants you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and not knowing everything. So while I can feel him at any time and I can know what's going on with him at any time and I can connect with his 5D anytime, with his higher self anytime, sometimes there is a void that we go through. But that's another topic I'll come back to. Anyway, so I know all of that, and I feel him, and I'm not at all worried about how he feels. I know how he feels. I know how he feels about me, what he wants. I know what the future holds. I still miss him. I still feel the separation. I still don't want to be away from him anymore. And that is a 3D reality that does not change until physical union. And there may be a lot of people who can convince themselves that they're okay with just the 5D union, but I'm not one of those people. And I think most of you aren't too. Like, that's a whole nother topic also, about the people who can force themselves to move on or not. Then we're getting into twin flames versus twin rays, and that's not what this is about. But the point is that when I started doing this, it was because I didn't think that those advisors and those coaches were really helping people, because they were not explaining things in a way that they could understand, and it was not helpful for 3D reality that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So when I started this, that was my focus, on helping people understand from the 3D perspective and how to deal with this and function in their regular everyday lives. And I recognize how I teach and help people has changed and evolved because I have gone through this awakening process, and I function more from the 5D now. When I started just like that, like I said, I was more in the 3D. Now I'm more in the 5D. And even though I recognize that people need that help from that 3D perspective, I also understand how it is really, really helpful in coping to be able to understand from that higher perspective, because when you can understand why things are happening the way that they're happening, and especially when it explains how it's not your twin's fault and it's not your fault, and it's just things that are happening. This could be a variety, that's why I'm being vague. Things that are happening that are out of our control, and that are just, it is how it is, because that's how this spiritual journey works. Yeah, it can be hard to grasp, but at the same time, it can help with being able to cope with the process. Like, at least that's how I function. Maybe not everyone functions that way, but that's how I function. That it helps me in understanding and coping when I am able to look at those other perspectives and understand that this is happening for this reason. So that is why, to me, I go back on that. But I recognize that it's hard for people, especially who are more in the 3D and are have a lot more healing to do, which the later waves have more healing to do. So I think that that's part of the reason why Spirit brought this up for me to talk about right now, because I was connecting a little bit more through the 3D over the last week with that full moon energy, and it just reminded me of some feelings and some stuff that I wanted to talk about, because I know how hard it is. Like, I've been there, I know how hard it is for you guys, and I wanted to talk about it from that perspective for a second, and I want to say, like, hey, I understand how this feels. And so, like, I truly feel that even divine feminines, like, you might be pretty much ready and healed and all of that, but towards the end, there might still be some things that you're working on here and there. Like, it could be letting go of needing to know stuff. It could be letting go of trying to control things, trying to push your twin along, even if you guys are in a good place, even if you're like, everything's moving on the right track, but you want it to move faster and you're trying to nudge them along or whatever. So everybody always, almost always, still has something to work on. I can definitely tell that for myself, what Spirit is pushing me to continue to do better at is that letting go of needing to know. I think I've let go of control for the most part. I recognize I can't control what's going on. I have to be patient. I have to just wait for everything to align and wait for my twin to be 100% ready, which I do believe he is, pretty much there. But obviously, if he was 100% ready, he would be here now. So there's still something, although I'm going to get into that more too, because I actually talked to Spirit about it right before I recorded this. I wanted to get some answers about some stuff. But yeah, so I think I've let go of control a lot, but it's the needing to always know what's going on. And that has always been a problem for me, although it was also something I needed to do for a period of time. When I was going through my spiritual warfare, I had to know what was going on, because knowing what was going on was preventing bad things from happening. So that actually, that's a perfect example of ways that the twin flame journey creates wounds itself and creates issues itself, because it has its own traumas and it has its own things. So that just, intensified my need to know things. Plus, I'm like that anyway. I'm the person who reads the spoilers online before I watch something. I could be watching something and I will read the spoilers to see what's going to happen. That has helped me sometimes in avoiding certain shows or movies also, let me just say. But anyway, that's who I am. That's just how I've always been. So yeah, relinquishing that has been really hard for me. And I've always been concerned about that being a problem and an obstacle, but I've talked to Spirit about it, and Spirit has told me that I'm not creating blockages by doing that. I do believe that there's still been other stuff that needed to be worked through on my twin side, on his process, and external factors as well. But along the way, at the same time, Spirit has also been working on that with me and helping me to release that. And more and more and more, I'm okay not knowing as much, because I have complete faith and confidence, like I said, and I know how my twin feels. I know what the future holds for us. I have that complete confidence that it will come together. And it's not so much about, I don't need to know because of that. If anything, it can be about stepping away from that feeling of wanting it now, as opposed to being able to just sit back and let the timing be whatever it needs to be. And that's something that's very human and hard to do for anyone. I think that for divine feminines, that is probably the hardest thing to let go of and surrender to. It might not be the hardest, but it's up there if it's not. It probably also depends on the person. But, human nature is to want that instant gratification, especially in this society now where everything like happens much faster. I mean, 20 years ago, people were used to slow internet connection speeds. Now, if it doesn't happen immediately, everybody gets upset. That's just one example. But yeah, it's totally human nature to expect things. Sorry, I have an itch. I gotta get it. It's totally human nature to want things to happen immediately now, to be sick of waiting, especially on a twin flame journey that takes years, and all twin flame journeys take years. So you need to know and understand that, okay? Because this kind of metamorphosis and transformation does not happen overnight. It just takes time. There's no way around that. So Spirit getting all of us through that process of relinquishing the need for it to happen as soon as possible, or now, or however you want to put it, and focusing on that. That's hence what Jesus and Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary said about kill expectations of what you think should happen and when. But then they said you can be unexpectedly surprised by how quickly everything falls into place. And the key about that is literally, I truly believe, and I've seen it happen as well, that with Spirit, as soon as you can let go of feeling that need for the timing, that's when Spirit will bring everything together. I mean, that can be one factor related to it. But so Spirit surprises us in that way, and is it's all part of the spiritual lessons and the spiritual growth. And Spirit trying to get us to shift out of our 3D human mindset and shift into our spiritual mindset, recognize that time really doesn't matter. And as long as you are able to have that complete faith and trust that everything will come together, then why are you so focused on time, I know there's so many things that you can say about that, but that's the objective that Spirit is doing and pushing every single one of us through. Okay, so that was my example for myself, that even the Divine Feminines can have stuff at the very end that Spirit is working on, and that's one of them. That's probably the most common for Divine Feminines, I would think, but I probably have to do a survey to know for sure. So what it was that I was thinking about through this full moon energies was about how even for the Divine Feminines, even at the end of the journey, when you are so far along and so healed and so surrendered and so ready, but yet there's still little things coming up for you, little purges and little lessons. And it can still feel so hard sometimes. And that's when that's when we go back and forth between 3D and 5D, right? So, and it can, I'm trying to think of the right words. I can't think of the right words to describe it, but basically that's where Spirit is making you get comfortable being uncomfortable. When I talked about how Spirit will put you in a void sometimes so you don't know, because I truly believe I've seen this happen so many times for twins, for Divine Feminines, that right before everything is going to happen and come together, that's when they know the least amount of what's going on. They're put in a void of not knowing, of not feeling as connected to their twin. They're pushed to let go of asking so much and being okay, like realizing it doesn't really matter. You don't need to ask all of these questions. Like, you know inside, you just have to be okay, being uncomfortable, not knowing, being uncomfortable, waiting, just going about your life and letting everything fall together. And that is a difficult process. That is a painful process. And I don't mean painful in terms of what's going on with your twin or being upset with your twin. It might feel like that. You might feel like your twin isn't, trying hard enough or isn't doing what they need to do or whatever, but that's not the case. And that's also, that is a place that your ego center takes you, because it's fear-based, because it's like your ego center is telling you that to try to explain to yourself why it hasn't happened yet. But when you can shift back and look at it from the 5D perspective or your twin's perspective, you are able to understand the why it hasn't happened yet. And it's not because your twin isn't doing what they need to do. What's really going on and what's so difficult and painful doesn't have to do with your twin. It's spirit forcing you to learn to be comfortable with what's uncomfortable. Because really what's going on when you're waiting like that is that the waiting is poking a wound. It's poking a fear or a wound, actually. It's either poking a rejection wound, so like you're afraid that your twin is rejecting you by not being here yet, whether you're in good communication or not, to be honest. Or it's poking fear that like things will never come together, which I'm having trouble like putting that into a different type of inner wound. That might not even be so much an inner wound so much as it is just like a fear of your goals and dreams not coming to fruition. And a lot of times too with the twin flame journey, when you devote so much of your time and energy into it, or more, you know, it can get to a place where if you have to consider the possibility that it won't come together, then that can be very devastating, not just in terms of not having your twin and not having the life that you are dreaming of, but also in terms of I have spent so much time and energy and made so many sacrifices putting into this connection and into this journey, that to consider that possibility can be terrifying to some people, probably all, to be honest, if you really like thought about it. And really, again, that's the ego center, because you can be 100% sure, like I am, you can be 100% sure of how your twin feels and what the future holds, and at the same time that fear can still be terrifying. And that is something that the uncomfortableness of not knowing provokes, and it pokes that wound and it pokes that fear. And that's why it's a difficult and a painful process that spirit is pushing you through at the end. So even when you're far along in the process and you know all is good, you can't help feeling that way, because the not knowing pokes that ego center fear and that ego center wound of those what ifs. What if what if they're not actually, you know, making progress? What if they are, pick a what if, honestly, it depends on each person, each situation, but it pokes the what ifs and it pokes the fears. And that's why the unknowing is uncomfortable and painful. But a lot of people, if you're the more oh my god, I can't talk, the more wounded you are, the more healing you need, the more that is going to cause you to project it onto your twin and blame your twin and say that they're not doing what they need to or whatever. The more surrendered you are, the more ready you are, the more you're able to step back and recognize it's not about my twin. This is part of my healing process also, okay? Let me just say also that the holidays and important dates in particular can provoke those wounds, because twins want to spend them together. They don't want to be in separation for those. They want to be celebrating together. I mean, you learn to cope with them, but I don't think I know any twins who have been able to completely get through the holidays or important dates without feeling affected by that. It's just natural. So those dates in particular, so obviously from the end of November to the new year, tend to be worse for provoking those wounds also. But yeah. I forgot what I was going to say, so I paused at 44 seconds. But I'm just going to go back to my notes, because I did jot down notes yesterday when I was thinking about it. So talking about what I was just saying about how it's making you feel comfortable at being uncomfortable, I wrote down that being in the dark is so hard because it makes you feel like progress isn't happening and that things won't change, and it provokes those fears, just like I was talking about. But Spirit is basically putting us in that position, making us get comfortable with what's uncomfortable, which is what I said. And you almost like can't avoid that. You know, maybe some of you guys are lucky and get to avoid it, but I don't think they are for the most part. It's like that saying, it's always darkest before the dawn, but that doesn't have to, that can mean that you're going through tough stuff, but it can also mean that you're in a void, you don't know what's going on, because Spirit is keeping you, Spirit wants you to be surprised. Spirit is keeping you in the dark for a reason that Spirit understands, and it's part of your soul growth process. Getting past that feeling is what surrendering is. Being able to let go of worrying about that, worrying about when, and worrying about knowing what's going on, and trying to have, the reason why you want to know is because you want to try to have control over in some way. So getting past that is the surrendering process, and there's always deeper layers of surrendering. I see people say all the time, oh, I'm surrendered, I'm doing great with that, stuff like that, but I pretty much have said, I say all the time, I'm like, trust me, there's always deeper layers of surrendering. You will be surprised as you go through the journey how much deeper surrendered you can get. When it comes to divine masculines, like I was saying, that unknowing puts divine feminines in a perspective of thinking that they're just choosing not to do whatever they need to do yet. But in reality, that's not usually what's going on. Usually they're juggling a lot of stuff. They're still going through part of their healing process. They're not 100% ready yet for either spiritual growth or emotional growth or something internal processing. I had a dream a few weeks ago. I think it was the week before Christmas. And in the dream, and I knew that it was a vision when I woke up. In the dream, my twin and I were together, but we were like walking somewhere. We were on a campus, to be honest, a school campus. And we were walking, and he was like very, very stressed and a little bit emotional, but more so stressed and exhausted. And he had to go to class. And he was like, he asked me to wait for him, and he asked me not to be far away, to be nearby. And like, he went to class, and I went and I waited. Like, I literally went and waited, and like, I don't think of it like it was either like the next building or outside, but like on the outside of the building he was in, so that I remember the image of me being on like the other wall, like, you know, like he's here, there's a wall, and I'm on the other side of it. And I texted him and let him know where I was, waiting for him. And I recognized that Spirit was telling me that you know what, there was another, oh no, that was a different dream. There was a different dream also where he was trying to be in a million places at once, and he was super frustrated. Both dreams, I reckon. In fact, the second one, I actually heard my higher self talking to me also. But I recognized that what Spirit was telling me was that he's trying, he's dealing with a lot, he's juggling a lot. I recognized that the school aspect was Spirit telling me that he's still working through part of his lessons and part of his soul growth. He wants to be with you. He wants you to be patient with him right now while he's dealing with all of that stuff. And Spirit was also telling me to do that, of course, and was just like, just be patient a little bit longer. He's really tired. He's dealing with a lot. He's juggling a lot, and he's not quite 100% fully through his lessons just yet, or his growth or healing or whatever it is that the school represented. And just be patient a little bit longer. And in the dream, like I said, he asked me to wait for him. He asked me to be nearby, and needed to know where I was even. And I had to send him that text. I mean, I didn't have to, but like, it was to make him feel better. I don't remember if he asked me or not, to be honest. I think I just sent that to make him feel better because of how he was being like, don't go far, don't worry, just like, give me a little bit longer kind of thing. And so I feel like that was the perfect representation, and Spirit even communicating it to me of, you know, don't think that he's not trying or whatever, like there's just still some stuff going on, basically. Jesus also told me once, when I was having a conversation with him, November-ish, Jesus said, when he's ready, nothing can stop him. And it's kind of funny because Spirit's been telling me he's ready, but at the same time, obviously not 100%. I feel like it's like 99% or something like that. But the important message there is that when he's ready, nothing can stop him. So divine feminines, and I say that because I'm not just I can't talk. I'm not just talking about myself, I'm talking about all divine feminines. All of you need to know that when they're ready, nothing can stop them. Don't think that they're holding back because they don't want you, or because they're choosing another path or whatever. They are still working through something that they have to work through, whether that is dealing with the circumstances in their external world, or whether that's going through an internal process. When they're ready, they will be full steam ahead. There is more to it than that, because it's not 100% up to the divine masculine. It's also up to the spirit. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But the last part of my notes about that part was, like I said, don't think that they're not trying or choosing another path. In reality, I really just said it. They're juggling a lot. They're going through their necessary growth processes, and they're just not completely through them yet. And I forgot about this part, or Spirit is testing them. And Spirit's testing us too. Spirit's testing both, because it's not just about the divine masculine. Remember I was saying at the beginning that the divine feminines have their own stuff that they're being pushed through at the end also, like the more lessons for them in letting go and surrendering deeper. So both of it is tests by Spirit, testing you to, are you ready to push past? For the divine masculines, are you ready to push past whatever obstacles or whatever emotional difficulties? And for the feminines, are you ready to completely let go, completely surrender, completely relinquish control, completely relinquish the need to know, whatever it is? Those are the examples I'm using today, but I'm sure there are more examples also. So it's also tests by Spirit. And I 100% fully believe that when it's time, Spirit, and not just when it's time, but when it's two parts. When it's time, and when both of you are ready enough, because I don't believe you have to be 100% ready. Spirit will give the green light, will open the pathways, and like Jesus said, when he's ready, nothing can stop him. It'll be full steam ahead. Now, even though I'm saying that when everything aligns between the readiness of both twins and the external stuff that Spirit is orchestrating and coordinating, it'll be full steam ahead. Spirit will give the green light, and the divine masculines will be able to do it. I don't think that means that, absolutely nothing will be going on. There will be no obstacles whatsoever, like your work won't be in the way, karmics won't be in the way. Like, I actually think that will also be part of the process. What I mean is that, because that's part of the test. So there might still be, the pathways won't be 100% clear. They'll be clear enough, but there might still be, a lot of juggling going on. And that's part of the test also of, okay, are you ready to push past this? So it's both the green light combined with now prove it. Prove that you're really ready. And push past these last little bits. It won't be so much that it completely blocks the forward movement and the breakthroughs, but it'll be just enough to push the divine masculines out of their comfort zone. And probably the same for the feminines, although it would look a little bit different. We also have to remember that the divine masculines, everything that they're doing on their path, particularly once they're at least in the reunion phase and they're not running anymore, but they're like working on getting back to their twin flame, they're just dealing with their karmic situations, dealing with their internal growth. We need to understand that they handle things how they need to handle it for themselves. Some masculines are able to understand from the divine feminine perspective more and have consideration for that, but not all masculines are. And ultimately, for their part of the process and their side of the journey, they have to handle it how they need to handle it for themselves, and we have to be understanding of that. We can't try and force them to do it the way we think they should do it. We have to be understanding of how they need to handle it. And another last bit here before I go to the what Spirit told me tonight. Think of it like going to the butterfly analogy. You know, they've gotten through this major metamorphosis. They've gone in the cocoon. They went through the goo phase where they've gotten all restructured by Spirit. The cocoon has shed, or I'm not sure if it completely sheds or if it's still attached a little or what the deal is, but they're shedding the cocoon and they're drying out their wings, but they're not yet ready to fly just yet. They're still acclimating to the new environment, the new feelings, and they're getting ready to take off and fly into this new chapter. They're just still acclimating. So that covers everything that I had wanted to discuss about that. I missed the one sentence that was the whole point that I was basing it around yesterday when I was thinking about it. But so remember what they said, what Jesus and the Marys said. Kill expectations of what you think should happen and when. You can be unexpectedly surprised by how quickly everything falls into place. And the sentence that I had written down, which was connecting to why it's difficult on a 3D human consciousness level and the emotions that we go through with this, was Spirit wants us to let go but not give up. And it's learning how to do that is really difficult and sometimes painful, because we have to let go of 3D conditioning and let go of 3D expectations while at the same time trusting everything. And that is a very difficult learning process of learning how to not give up but relinquish that control and surrender. So you will often find that is one of the biggest things that you're going to cycle through over the course of your journey. Okay. But now, what was it that I asked Spirit about? I have known that divine timing is not just about when the divine masculine is ready. It's also about Spirit. So I asked Spirit directly tonight. I said, what percentage is free will? What percentage is Spirit coordinating everything? Only 20% is free will. So there is a little bit of an element of the divine masculine can be holding back at times, they could have opportunities and not take them. And that's when it comes into the tests that I was talking about, and Spirit being like, are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? So there's a little bit of element of free will there. That's going to connect to their readiness, though, and that's going to connect to their own fears, so that they are building up to push past, to have the courage to get past. 80% of divine timing on union is controlled by Spirit. And within that, it goes deeper than that in terms of what Spirit is controlling and what Spirit is working around. So Spirit is orchestrating everything and coordinating divine timing, 20% based on the divine masculine. And that means the divine masculine's readiness internally, as well as what's going on in their external world. Spirit does take into account for what's going on with work, what's going on with family and kids, and all sorts of stuff like that. Like if you have family gatherings, holidays, anything like that, that's part of what Spirit is coordinating. So like I was saying, divine timing is based 20% on free will, I would say, of the divine masculine, because the divine feminines are ready and waiting. So they're waiting on their divine masculine. So free will of the divine masculine. 80% is coordinated by Spirit and controlled by Spirit. Of that 80%, 20% is about the divine masculine, of their internal readiness and the external factors. And I actually did ask Spirit, what's the difference on those also? So the 20% based on the divine masculine, 80% of that is their internal readiness, passing their tests, ready to go full steam ahead. And 20% is external factors, work, family, situations, holidays, all that stuff. Same thing with the divine feminines. So Spirit is coordinating divine timing based 20% on the divine masculines, 20% on the divine feminines. Same thing, 80% of that is their divine feminine's internal readiness, and 20% is the divine feminine's external factors as well, with their work and family and stuff. And so that leaves 60% of divine timing that spirit is controlling is based on portals and astrological events. But it's not just like the 1111 portal or 1212 or whatever, or Mercury retrograde or whatever. It's also portals within the connection for each twin pair. So that's birthdays, and that is events in your soul connection, in your soul history, in this lifetime and in previous lifetimes. So like in this lifetime, for us, October is always a big month. So October is an important month for things that spirit pushes through on divine timing for us. I also know that October is a significant month for us because of past lives. I know that in a past life we were married in October, and I'm almost certain I know what week it was, because that week always has something for us every year. So those are things that spirit coordinates around also. So it's kind of a lot to break down, but divine timing is 20% the divine masculine free will, is 80% controlled by spirit. And of that 80%, 20% is based on the divine feminine and 20% is based on the divine masculine, both mainly internal readiness, a little bit external factors, and then 60% is based on the portals, the astrological events, the soul history and the connection, the history of the connection between the twins. Make sense? Actually, I also calculated that a little bit differently, because I didn't just want to know the breakdown between what we can control and what spirit is controlling. I also wanted to know the breakdown between what is based on our internal readiness and what is based on external factors that are completely out of our control. And so because of how that was different based on all those things I listed, because I looked at it both based on the divine masculine and divine feminine and the portals and astrological events, since we don't control our soul's history together and when things happen. So I broke it down completely based on external factors versus internal factors in terms of what spirit is controlling and orchestrating, and it's 53% based on external factors and 47% based on internal factors. That's not including the free will part, okay? So I didn't do this math. 20% is based on the free will of the divine masculine, and then of the remaining 80%, 53% of that is external factors, because that's the monthly portals, astrological events, and external factors in each of our lives that spirit knows about that we don't even necessarily know about, or we're just trying to deal with. And then the other 47% is the internal readiness, as well as the internal history of the connection. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And I just wanted to know that. So that is very interesting, though, because it's important to understand that you're waiting for union. It's more about spirit than it is about your twin. Spirit is guiding your twin through the process of being ready for this, and will get them there. But spirit has more control over this than your twin does, or than you do. And ultimately, you have to just be able to see that, be able to recognize it, and then be able to relinquish the control. It's just like I said, 20% is also about the divine feminine and the divine feminine's readiness. Well, the divine feminine's readiness is also in terms of releasing those expectations, kill expectations, and being comfortable with not knowing, being comfortable in the uncomfortable, being comfortable in the void, being able to completely let go of when and how, and not trying to control it at all anymore, and recognizing that spirit has the ability to bring everything together just like that. And the more you can allow for that, the more it will happen, the sooner it will happen. I mean, you don't know what's going on the divine masculine side, but yeah, the sooner it'll happen. So I thought that was really interesting. I hope that it helps you guys.